Do you ever wish you could just find a secret weapon that would help you stand out from your competitors, position you as an expert in your field, help you connect with your community and build relationships with your audience and customers? Well, we have the answer, and it's a branded podcast. I'm Andy Leroy.
And I'm Louise Poole, and we're giving you the insights to help elevate you as an expert in your field. Elevating experts.
We assume that you already love podcasts. After all, you're listening to this one, and that you find immense value in them. But there's a few things that you might not have realised about podcasts that you could take advantage of to enhance your business and grow your audience.
Are you ready for some stats, Andy? Dr. Poole is in the studio.
I thought Dr. Poole was your science character.
Yeah, okay. Well, now she's a mathematician if she can use her phone calculator.
Okay, go on, Doctor.
Okay. Did you know about 5.6 million Australians, or 26% of the population, are podcast listeners?
What?
According to a study, the number of Australians who are aged 12 plus who listen to online audio weekly actually increased to 66% of the population from 63% a year ago. So podcast listeners are also growing.
Well, I think firstly we need to tackle any outdated perceptions that a podcast is just two friends shooting the breeze, recording in their closet and talking about their favourite movies. It can be that, but it can also be so much more because podcasts give you a chance to reach listeners in places that other media doesn't.
The difference is that a branded podcast is a marketing initiative by a brand that's not strictly promotional, but it ties into the brand's messaging.
Branded podcasts exhibit the same storytelling qualities as a typical podcast, but they also align with the brand's mission. The distinction is it's not an ad disguised as a podcast. It's a way for you to add extra value for your customers and audience and create those relationships with them.
I mean, this is a branded podcast that you're listening to right now. Welcome Change Media, which is our business, is the brand. We specialise in making podcasts, both ones that we're personally passionate about, but also ones for clients that have subjects that they're passionate about.
So a podcast like Elevating Experts, it's not an ad. It's a way for us to share our skills and knowledge and help you along your podcasting journey. Not only because we believe in community over competition, but also because somewhere in your journey, you or someone you know may need to engage services like ours to help you.
There was a BBC Global News Neuro Insight survey done that actually discovered branded podcasts are more effective than TV or radio ads. They learned that brand mentions within a branded podcast stood out. The stats say it delivered 16% higher engagement and 12% higher memory encoding than the surrounding content, which is actually 5% higher than radio and 22% higher than television.
And while effective advertising is very much focused on a call to action, the strength of regular podcast content is that it offers value to your listeners and it's always there for them to come back to and listen to again.
When you make a podcast, you're putting the choice back into the hands of your listeners. Podcasts are easy to consume. For example, they could choose to press play while they're commuting, doing chores, or listening while they're at work. Either way, your audience chooses to listen, subscribe, and come back because of the expertise that you offer.
Speaking of expertise, this is what our whole podcast is about. And branded podcasting is going to help you position yourself as an expert. When you own a business, building trust is important, so you can create a show that will allow you to share your knowledge and expertise in a way that suits your topic and your listeners and make you the go-to source for their information.
More stats, Andy?
Sure.
Well, podcast listeners are engaged listeners. Over 50% of podcast listeners say the most important reason they have for listening is to get a deeper understanding or gain a wider perspective on topics. They're also more likely to listen all the way through to the end, which means your message is more likely to be heard and calls to action more likely to be followed.
And I think by far one of the biggest benefits of having your own branded podcast is SEO. SEO, or search engine optimization, will affect how your website and your content gets ranked in places like Google and what keywords people are searching for.
Let's use us as an example. If someone was searching for keywords like Podcast Production Australia, Welcome Change Media wants to be number one on that search engine page. Because if you can make it onto that first page of Google, the user is more likely to choose your business to hire for the action that they want to take.
So this podcast, Elevating Experts, is around 5 minutes of keyword-rich content around podcasting and content creation. The people who are looking for businesses like ours might be searching for these types of phrases. Even though Google can't tell what you've said in the podcast.
Yet.
If you also drop a transcript on your website and repurpose it for articles, blogs and social media, then that's going to help feed into that SEO and boost your business ranking when potential customers search for those keywords.
It's also likely that in the not too distant future, especially with podcasts booming, that Google will start to index actual podcast audio. Facebook as well is starting to get into the podcast market, and much like when they've rolled out new technologies in the past across their platforms, they'll probably reward creators who embrace these early technologies through more reach and boosted content views.
So we've covered a lot of ground here, and there are certainly a lot of benefits for you to start your own podcast. Whether you're a business, a coach, or a content creator building a community of like-minded people. Let's recap on the main benefits.
Having a podcast strengthens your brand in your listener's mind and increases brand loyalty.
It gives you an opportunity to provide evergreen content, particularly for commonly asked questions.
Niche-driven content improves your SEO.
And it's a fun, non-salesy way to connect with your customers and audience.
And we've popped all this in the show notes of today's episode. Next time on Elevating Experts, Captain Obvious makes his debut to talk about meaningful labels.
Elevating Experts with Welcome Change Media, giving you the insights that elevate you as an expert in your field.
Check our show notes and website for more information on today's topic.
Hit subscribe and share with your friends and colleagues so we can all rise together.
For a tailored solution to help with your branding goals, contact us today via welcomechangemedia.com.au.
Elevating Experts is a Welcome Change Media production.